Cyberpunk 2077 can't come soon enough. Fortunately, the fine people at R. Talsorian Games have finally released the Jumpstart Kit to the long-awaited tabletop RPG, Cyberpunk Red. Red is the sequel to Cyberpunk 2020, and Cyberpunk 2020, as I'm sure you know by now, is what Cyberpunk 2077 is based on. That's a lot of cyberpunk. Anyway, if you do the math, there are about 57 years unaccounted for, and Cyberpunk Red aims to fill some of those gaps. Now, before we really dig into Red, here's a bit of background featuring the creator himself, Mike Pondsmith.
The 2020 world is a fusion of many types and elements of the overall cyberpunk genre. It's about a combination of technology gone wrong, but being used by people in novel ways, up against large mega corporations, powerful people and powerful forces, governments, etc., that are all pretty much conspiring to keep people oppressed and stomped on.
While you can create any sort of cyberpunk city or setting you like in the tabletop RPG, the books in the game focus on Night City, an urban sprawl between Los Angeles and San Francisco. As Pondsmith said, corporations are mostly calling all of the shots and doing what they can to keep the people suppressed. While government still exists, they rarely pose much of a threat to the corporate overlords. The lack of government regulation has left the megacorporations free to start conflicts on a whim with little repercussions. These wars have been dubbed the corporate wars and typically end in lots of bloodshed. Cyberpunk Red takes place in 2045 after the Fourth Corporate War, a bloody conflict started in 2021 by Aquacorp Sino and OTEC and later escalated by Militech and Arasaka. As different corporations aligned with either Arasaka or Militech, all-out war was waged between different corporations across the planet. The megacorps rolled through countries, broke international laws, and hired private armies to do their bidding. In an attempt to end the war, Johnny Silverhand, aka Keanu Reeves, and the solo Morgan Blackhand led an attack on the Arasaka headquarters in Night City. During the raid, a small nuclear bomb detonated and leveled most of Night City, killing over 500,000 people. Despite knowing that the bomb was supplied by Militech, the US president put the blame on Arasaka and nationalized Militech. The increased pressure reduced Arasaka to a Japan-only corporation for the next decade. Due to the combined efforts of Militech and national armies, the Fourth Corporate War was put to an end. The end of the Fourth Corporate War ushered in the time of the Red. So why is it called Cyberpunk Red? Well, due to the mass destruction and radiation from the Fourth Corporate War, a red pall hangs over the skies worldwide. However, the radiation isn't that big of a threat because most people living in the universe already had radiation filters installed in their bodies. With major cities in shambles, people have been reclaiming the once abandoned towns and settlements throughout the country. As you'd expect, bandits and other questionable types roam the wilds. Most people who venture beyond the city stick with armed nomad caravans. Meanwhile, in 2030, sweeping reconstruction projects take place across the world, especially in Night City, which had its city center leveled. However, in the interim, the city outskirts and districts less affected by the bomb have become overcrowded. By 2045, the first mega building is erected. These are huge buildings designed to safely house as many people as possible. V's apartment in the 2077 gameplay reveal demo is located in a mega building. As the narrator says in the video, these apartment buildings have everything one could possibly need and typically form micro-societies within Night City. In 2045, Night City's N-Cart subway system has also seen better days. While it's functional, flooding is a common occurrence and gets delayed frequently. According to Red's World Book, city planners are working to raise a majority of the track into a new monorail configuration, but that will take time and money the city doesn't have. Something tells me this monorail system will be complete by the time 2077 rolls around. To kick off this new era, the net as we know it, or rather as we know it from Cyberpunk 2020, has been wiped out. Originally, you were able to travel the world and into space via the net, but the infrastructure that allowed for that kind of freedom has been destroyed. After the Fourth Corporate War, netrunners had to physically jack into local networks if they wanted access. Based on what we've seen of Cyberpunk 2077, I'd imagine this localized net infrastructure is still present in the 2070s. Along with a series of localized networks, the Time of the Red introduced citywide networks called data pools. These can be accessed one of two ways: through a data term or a cell phone device called an agent. From what I can tell, local networks rarely interface with these data pools. Data pools are essentially the internet if it was localized to a city. You can message people, share information, buy stuff, and research things, i.e. Facebook forums, Amazon, and Wikipedia all exist within the data pool. It's also home to something called pop media, which is described as entertainment and news programming created by independent producers instead of megacorps. According to the World Book, it also boasts an ungodly amount of trash. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Chances are your primary communication device in Cyberpunk 2077 will be your agent. In Cyberpunk Red, agents come in 3 forms: basic, expensive, and luxury. Agents can do pretty much anything a modern phone can do, except you can reprogram an agent to act as a surrogate lover and purchase other complementary cybernetic enhancements to suit various needs. Sounds like a side quest waiting to be written.
Voila. Bon appetit. I missed you, baby sweet.
With the public transportation system constantly on the fritz, cars were your most reliable way of getting around during the time of the Red. And while fancy cyber cars did exist, they were expensive and hard to drive unless you were cybered up. Fortunately, good old fuel-burning cars are still around and kicking during Red. While cyber cars might be rare, cyber bikes aren't. These things can run off alcohol or water and are definitely present in 2077. 2 other vehicles Cyberpunk Red mentions are the F-152 Aerogyro, which is basically a one-man helicopter, and the McDonnell Douglas AV-4. The AV-4 is described as the closest thing to a science fiction jet car. These reach speeds of 350 miles an hour and are typically reserved for corporate bigwigs and trauma teams. If I were a betting man, I'd say that the aircraft we see at the beginning of the gameplay reveal is one of those. Considering CD Projekt Red has said that you probably won't be able to pilot flying cars or vehicles, I think it's safe to say that transportation technology won't make too many advancements before 2077. However, I bet we'll see more cybercars.
Hey, give us a lift out of here? No problem.
And of course, one of the most important things for any cyberpunk is their style. However, clothing does more for a cyberpunk than net them some clout on the street. Depending on how much you're willing to spend, you can find jackets with built-in portable chargers, clothing with adjustable temperature, bodysuits that can change colors and textures, and undershirts that can harden into body armor. Hopefully when 2077 comes out, I'll be able to give my net-running ninja assassin a bodysuit that lets her cloak herself as she breaks into corporate headquarters. But what about Johnny Silverhand and Morgan Blackhand?
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Well, they should be dead, but if you've seen the E3 2019 trailer, it's clear that Johnny is still alive, at least in some form. According to the Cyberpunk Red timeline, there are rumors that Johnny Silverhand's body was found in cold storage in a body bank under the wreckage. This is just a wild speculation, but I hope we get to recover Johnny Silverhand's body at some point during 2077. Morgan Blackhand, on the other hand, is rumored to be covertly working for the US government and President Kress. I'm not exactly sure how he could play a role in 2077, but based on the gameplay reveal, you can pick Morgan Blackhand to be one of your character's role models. The Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit is out now, and this video only scratches the surface. If there's something I missed, feel free to drop it in the comments below, or you can find me on Twitter at JacobDeck. Thank you all for watching.